Welcome to the Golden Hour, a content series from us here at the Horizon League, where we talk about major experiences and major impact happening across our Indianapolis community and the rest of our horizon. I'm Rachel White, and on today's episode, we have Brett Kramer, Director of Kicking the Stigma and a former Horizon League staffer. Stay tuned for a great episode. Welcome to this edition of the Golden Hour, a content series from us here at the Horizon League. I'm Rachel White, joined by Brett Kramer, Director of Kicking the Stigma. Thanks for joining us, Brett.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So we'll start with, you had some major experiences in your past, including working here in the Horizon League office. So talk a little bit about that, maybe kind of the growth of the HL as you were here and how that kind of helped you with the next steps in your career.
Yeah, so I'm actually blessed to say that the Horizon League was the place that I started my career in sports. And after I graduated from Michigan State, I wanted to come back home to Indianapolis, and I knew a couple people at the Horizon League at the time who I had got to work with on the Midwest Regionals in Indianapolis in 2013. And as I should always say, I'm grateful to Bill Benner for providing me with this opportunity. And it was really my first lens into the sports industry. But more importantly, I think the lens that conference offices provide, because I think that's a lens that not a lot of people see. They see the school side, they see the NCAA side, but they don't really see that intermediary. And it was a great place to both start a career, to really learn the business, but also at a conference office, as you know, you have a great level of responsibility and leadership over all the schools, all of the different sports, the coaches. So it was a great way also as a young professional to dip my toes into what it would be like to be a leader in this industry too. And boy, has it changed since when I started to now. And I mean, just thinking about the landscape of the men's basketball tournament, I mean, when I was in the league, you went to the side of the number one seed. Yep. If the number one seed lost, then you on the semifinal, you actually had to pick up and move location. Wow. So one of my fondest yet not so fondest memories is when we were up in Green Bay for the men's basketball championship. They lost in the semifinal, and then we had to uproot the entire championship and go all the way down to Dayton and Wright State.
Sounds
to have
easy.
The championship.
Yeah,
I know,
no
it was
problem.
so easy,
We'll
right?
Just pick it up and move it.
And I just remember at the time, it was the first time they'd ever had to pick up and leave. And it was just I don't think I want to do this again. So I think that's really in that instance, in that movement. I mean, talk about Green Bay to Wright State. Yeah. That's not close. So I think that's where a lot of the momentum came from, evaluating the basketball championship. How does it become a single site tournament for at least the semifinals and championships? And just so lucky it landed in Indianapolis, and here I am a little further down in my career and still involved in it and get to work with the people that I love so much and that I started my career with.
Yeah, it's awesome, and we're really blessed to still have you involved in the championship. So talk a little bit about your current role with Kicking the Stigma. What all are you doing there? How did you kind of land in that position?
So Kicking the Stigma launched in 2021 as the Irsay family promise to give back to the community and really create awareness around the stigma associated with mental health. And the Jim Irsay family are the owners of the Indianapolis Colts. And when it started in 2020, it was all rooted around a public awareness campaign. So they did national commercial buys around mental health and stigma, but they also designed their shoes that year around the My Cause, My Cleats program to say Kicking the Stigma. And I think in that moment between the shoes and the national commercials, it went from, I think in their minds, maybe not this one-time moment, but a big splash just to test the water. Yeah. And the Indianapolis community, the Indiana community, and really beyond, it had such public or positive reception that a couple years later, it grew so big, they're like, oh, shoot, well, we should hire a full-time person to manage the strategic direction of Kicking the Stigma. And I'm lucky to be that full-time person. So I've been with the Colts almost 2 years now, so 2 years in May. And my job is to really lead the strategic direction of Kicking the Stigma and really just seeing how we can use the power of the Indianapolis Colts platform and megaphone that we have as a brand, especially tied to the NFL, on how we can do good in the mental health sector. And that has been both a great challenge, but also a privilege, because it's funny in sports, we always say well, we're not really saving lives. So yeah, it's a big deal. There's big money. Right. And now I'm just wait, I'm actually we might actually be saving a life or two, which is just very humbling.
It's incredible the major impact you're able to have. We talk about a lot here in this office, and it's a cause we're very passionate as well. So I know we're maybe working on some things with you all in the mental health space, so really exciting. Let's talk. We mentioned you're still involved with our basketball championships here. We have a local organizing committee that you play a large role in. So talk a little bit about that for people that maybe aren't aware of some of the behind the scenes work the community puts into the tournament.
Yeah, I think the first and foremost, it's a community championship. It's meant to be a community facing event. And that's why it's so great that the Horizon League has really armed themselves with the community members to really drive what it looks like, what it feels like. How do we get the community involved? How do we keep the student athletes and the fans happy, because it's such a privilege to come to Indy to play in this experience. And I'm definitely lucky to be one of those community members. And our goal is really to uplift the championship from a community side, assist the Horizon League staff in making it the best championship experience possible, but then also use our own networks to really talk about the Horizon League, talk about how much it means to the city, how much it elevates our brand as a city, as a sports event hub. I mean, we're the best in the country at it, and I'm no shame in saying that whatsoever. So I think as a role on the committee, it's kind of taking my skill set that I've spent 10 plus years developing in sports, handing it over to the Horizon League and be like, hey, this is what I can do for you. How do you see it helping the championship? How do we collectively help the championship? And then our goal is just to really make your guys' life easier, but really see the championship thrive here in Indy.
Yeah, it's been such a big part, that LOC and the growth of it, and how we've had so many people involved has really helped, and it's why we've built this into a long-term community event here in Indy. So appreciate you and all of your fellow LOC members for helping us with that. Can you talk a little bit more about kind of how you see the future of Kicking the Stigma, or the future of kind of addressing the stigma about mental health?
Yeah, so I think Kicking the Stigma what we're trying to do is really, we have 4 different prongs, so it's really in 2 different areas. One is driving awareness around mental health. What does that look like? What does that feel like? We have to date committed more than $31 million to the mental health sector, primarily in the state of Indiana, but with national touch points too. So we're trying to think, how are we driving awareness, but then driving philanthropic dollars to helping the sector move forward? The other piece, and we'd be remiss not to drive down this point too, is that we're a sports organization. And if you look at the numbers and statistics of athletes at a young age, up to college level, even professional, the statistics are staggering in the worst way possible when it comes to mental health. So we do feel like it's a little bit of our duty to kind of look at the sports industry. How are we changing the stigmas within sports? But then how are we really looking at training and resources that are available to athletes today versus what they could be in the future? Yeah. So that's a big goal of ours, is really evaluating the sports industry, trying to figure out what some of the missing pieces are that we can both provide programmatically, philanthropically, potentially even partnerships too in that space, and just see how we can really evolve what sports looks like in the mental health realm. Because right now it's not super healthy. I think we're trying to make strides in improving that stigma. I know our team and our players have come a very long way in just how they view mental health as a part of something that actually makes them perform better than worse. So I think that's something we're really looking to dive into moving forward, is like, how do we continue to change the narrative? How are we creating systemic change around mental health in sports?
That's great. It makes a lot of sense. Switching gears a little, obviously sports is kind of viewed a lot as a male-dominant industry, particularly you work in affiliation with a football team, which is obviously very male-dominated. So talk a little bit about your experience as a woman in the sports industry, maybe anything you've learned as a lesson, or anything that's progressed a lot during your career.
When I started at the Horizon League, I was primarily in the media relations, communication sector, as I know you are too. And I would walk into media rooms, and I would maybe be one of 3 or 4 females, sometimes the only one. And it's changed a lot since in the past 10 years. But I just remember thinking in that moment, I never was just like, oh, woe is me, like there's no females here. I was like, how do I make being a female in these male-dominated spaces my superpower? Yeah. And how do I really lean into my difference and lean into who I am as a person? Who cares what the gender is, but how do I just lean in from an expertise standpoint, from a personality standpoint, from a work ethic standpoint? And what I've learned being a female in sports is people are going to treat you how you allow them to treat you. Yeah. And if you're confident in your abilities and you're confident in the skill set that you provide and you show that, people treat you pretty well. Mm-hmm. But I've also had instances where people have treated me differently and poorly, or there's been borderline harassment with some media members to some level, and that's very uncomfortable. And I just kind of learned that there has been a culture around women in sports, and if I'm not being treated the way I want to, I need to figure out how to communicate how I want to be treated. Yeah. And that's been a big lesson learned, is sticking up for yourself in those moments where you are being treated a little bit differently, but never viewing being a female as like a disservice or a negative. To me, it's just the most powerful thing I bring to the table, having that female perspective in sports, being a former collegiate athlete myself, and never viewing as a negative. And we're lucky at the Colts. We have 3 female owners, and that's incredible. We have female leadership across the board, as of course does the Horizon League.
Yeah.
And there's just something special about a sports organization led by females. It drives empathy, compassion, excellence, you name it. So I've been lucky to be a part of quite a few organizations that are led by females, and very grateful to have those examples in my life. But then also, how am I continuing to uplift the next generation of females in the sports industry? Because we all have to uplift each other if we're going to have continued success.
Absolutely. We really appreciate your efforts in that area, even just helping me as someone who's in a position now a lot similar to what you used to do, and just learning from you and others in the industry has been super helpful. So we'd like to wrap up our podcast interviews, Brett, with a little start bench cut.
I'm so excited.
Give you 3 kind of like random options in a specific topic. Today we're doing types of cookie. I'm going to give you 3 options, and you're going to start, bench, or cut. So we've got chocolate chip, peanut butter, or sugar cookie. So you got to start 1, bench 1, cut 1.
Oh, this is actually really easy for me.
Okay.
I'm starting the sugar cookie.
Okay.
Like, if it's a well-done sugar cookie, like, especially a little undercooked, that's any success in cookies.
Love that.
I'm benching the chocolate chip cookie. It's had its moment. It's had its time.
Okay.
Big fan.
All right.
And I am cutting the peanut butter cookie just because, like, there's something about a peanut butter cookie. It never tastes as good as, like, peanut butter itself. So I always feel like I'm, like, missing something at the end. So, yeah, starting sugar, we're benching chocolate chip, and we are cutting the peanut butter.
I love that. I feel like we picked a great question for you. Obviously, very passionate response.
Yeah, I didn't know I was so passionate.
Great work on that.
Now.
You heard it here first from Brett. Chocolate chip had its moment. Peanut butter, never as good as the real thing. So thank you very much, Brett. Thanks for watching this episode of The Golden Hour. Be sure to follow at Kicking the Stigma on social media to keep up with all the great work that Brett's team is doing in the mental health space. And also be sure to follow at Horizon League and horizonleague.com for the latest news around our league. Don't forget to make a major impact in everything you do. Are you hungry? Cluster Truck is Indy's go-to delivery and pickup kitchen. With always free delivery and over 100 menu items, there is something to satisfy everyone's craving. Hand-stretched pizzas, pad thai, tacos, salads, wraps, burritos, and more delivered directly to your curb. Delivering to Fountain Square, downtown Indy, Carmel, Castleton, Broad Ripple, Fishers, and more. Use code HLRadio at checkout to receive $5 off your next order of $20 or more. Order now at clustertruck.com.